issue since I've been here, and this is something that we've been trying to work on. And we have spoke to the city manager and me myself, picked him up, drove around the city and had him jot down everything that needs to be maintained and needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I already talked to a city manager last week about that. So they clean it up, but when it's better here before, they make it better. That was clean all the time, so it was going right
Well,
away.
in all due
They can go
respect,
on.
it hasn't been clean because this is an ongoing thing.
I mean, you running around all that area with it?
I have,
I don't think so.
yes, I have.
No.
But no, nomás, it's not only that, it's the whole city. The whole city is really in dire need. No, but we are working on that, and we are working on trying to set some money, lots of money to the side, to just focus on what he needs and the department needs.
Yeah, because I'm a resident for Irving. So I got my business over here. So if you know some faces, new faces over here, so only Cecilia, the chief, that was here. I came to a meeting 50 years ago. I wanted a person to make a possible rate of 10% for the police department. So I'm not coming over here to waste my time. So I want to support everything was okay for the city. It's not good for the city, and I want to support it.
And
So I
together,
spent my time to come over here, and you guys know, nobody was here except my wife and me. Most of the
yes,
time.
you're right. Yes.
Okay, so I just came over here and said, well, doing something.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Any more public comments?
Hi everyone, Elizabeth Martinez. I'm just here to thank especially Public Works for the previous events that we had in Arvin. We had a car seat event with the Public Health Department. They were very helpful. And I also noticed that the gentleman, Pedro Barraza, he just came back. I'm not sure what happened, where was he at? But I've known him since 2017 or 18, when he started probably working in the city of Arvin that time. And he's always been very respectful, polite, very professional more than anything. And I believe he's the lead person that brings all the other people in Public Works, the employees, and he lets them know what to do. And we need him here in Arvin. And not only that, we need more people in Public Works. It's very few of them. So to maintain our city beautiful, let's put a little bit more attention to the employees of Public Works. Let's give them what they need, and the support from everyone, including from the residents in Arvin. Thank you. I just wanted to say that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to say something in regards to the trash issues that we're having in the city. Whether you believe it or not, it angers us also. But here's the real problem. There's more of us, and I say us, as citizens, than there is of Public Works or any department that we have in the city. But here's the deal. So I'm looking at the road that's up there by the high school that goes all the way through because of all that traffic in there. And I believe I talked to you about this, okay? And what do I see? This is what I see. I don't know if you can see this from here. You reckon if you can see this, it's Arvin High bleachers, okay? And then look what's on the ground there, a couch. Okay, now, do you think that it is really right for us to really believe that? And I guess I would reverse it. We need to police our own community with neighbors and friends and speak to people about doing these kinds of things. Throwing it in our own backyard. You can see it from your house. A lot of people don't live here. They can't see it, but we see it. The people that live here and the residents, okay? It's not the public works and it's not the city that's dumping trash around in these places. But we need to figure out how to deal with this because it's overwhelming, right in the middle of your city. Somebody figures that's far enough to dump something? It's not right. We gotta come up with a smarter idea. And it's gonna take all of us. And nobody can say, point the finger. And the best solution to the greatest solution is when no one's willing to take credit for what gets done. That's how you know you're a team. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda item.
I think you got one more.
Una, ¿quieres?
Salvador Gómez.
Salvador Gómez,
Muy buenas tardes, miembros del concilio.
members of the council.
Algo muy importante dijo la persona anterior a mí que estuvo
The previous
dando su
speaker
comentario.
said something very important when he makes comment.
Ustedes deben de entender, perdón,
You should
que nosotros somos de Arvin,
that we are from.
amamos a Arvin.
We love Arvin.
Con todo respeto,
And with all due respect,
las personas de mi derecha no viven en Arvin.
the people to my right.
No creo yo que amen a Arvin.
They do not live in Arvin. I do not believe that they love Arvin.
Algo muy importante que dijo la persona,
Something very important.
dele su lugar a Pedro Barraza.
Give Pedro Barraza his rightful place.
Pensamos, no solo yo,
Not only I think this way, but we think this way.
el chief police debe de tener su lugar
The chief of police must have his.
Como
his
policía.
Space or his, position as a police
no
officer.
como encargado de las personas que hacen el trabajo público.
Not as a person who supervises the public works.
Hay tres personas que nosotros como residentes nos fijamos quiénes trabajan y quiénes no.
There are three people that we as residents, we notice who's working and who's not working.
Yo en lo personal,
I personally,
Alex,
Alex,
Rigo
Rigo,
y Pedro.
and Pedro.
Al no estar Pedro, al no estar Rigo,
If Pedro's not there, if Rigo's not there,
ustedes ven cómo está el boulevard.
you see how the.
Años.
How the boulevard ends up looking.
Años que no se miraba el boulevard como se mira ahorita.
Many years have passed since the boulevard has not looked the way it looks right now.
Quizás ustedes no saben,
Perhaps you all do not know this,
pero Arvin es una ciudad bendecida.
but Arvin is a blessed city.
Cada fin de semana nos visita gente
Every weekend we get visitors
del sur de California,
from Southern California,
norte,
Northern
centro de
California,
California,
Central California.
porque son familiares y originarios de donde nosotros somos.
They're family members and they come from the same place we come from.
Arvin es una ciudad 100% latina
Arvin is a 100% Latin city,
y nosotros los latinos a los familiares nos gusta visitarlos cada fin de semana.
and we Latins like to visit family every weekend.
Y es una vergüenza, la verdad,
It's really a shame
que ellos van y me dicen
that they come and
que
tell
qué pasó con Arvin.
me, they ask
¿Por
me,
qué?
what happened to Arvin?
Es un asco, la verdad, Arvin. El boulevard,
Why is it such a,
Es-
ugly place, the boulevard,
el camino donde recorren cientos, quizás miles de carros,
is a road traveled by hundreds of thousands of cars.
y la verdad,
And the truth is,
con todo respeto,
with all due respect,
se ocupa mucho trabajo y regresen el probó la posición a Pedro
it needs a lot of work and get put better back in this position.
para que vuelva a ser Arvin lo que fue tiempo atrás.
So Arvin will go back to being what it was a while back.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, members of the council, city. My name is Carlos Guerrero, and I'm here to also talk about what's going on with the issues as far as public works is concerned. I'm glad that we were able to have removal of the money for what's originally allotted for city, assistant city manager. Those monies, I hope, will be allocated to public works, because as you've been hearing, we are having an issue with, like you said, trash. We are having an aging infrastructure that needs to be addressed as well. We have roads that need to be repaved. And I do remember, several meetings ago that they talked about that Arvin was on probation regarding monies for road improvement. So that's an area that definitely we need to take a look at. We've got potholes all over. From my point of view, of course, it's gonna take all of us, as you just said a little while ago, as a city and community members. But we need to take a look at what monies are going to Public Works, what assistance do they need in order to do their job effectively. So again, cleanup of the city is really important. My concern is what monies are being allocated to helping Public Works do their job effectively. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members, and city staff, and the people of Arvin. My name is Andrew Dominguez. I am the program manager of the Arvin Navigation Center. And I didn't plan to come up here today, but I see before me an opportunity to share, maybe an opportunity for the people that I serve. So for those of you that don't know, I serve a very specific population, and that is the homeless population. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of what I've seen here in Arvin for the past 2 years, almost 2 years in August. In working with those people, my people in the street, it could sometimes be a very hard and heartbreaking business. And it's a thankless job. But through service, because I believe in service very much, over the past 2 years, I have seen men and women overcome alcoholism, become stabilized on medication. They come to our little center every day, they fellowship, they watch their movies, they enjoy one another's company. And then they go back to the streets, and we do it all over the next day again. So I got to thinking, because of a lack of affordable housing in the region, not just Arvin, but Loma and all over. And another major issue that I face is most of them are undocumented, so they couldn't get housing even if it was available. It's been 2 years now. And so my staff and I have been thinking of forming and creating a program dubbed by one of my beloved staff members as Visionary Volunteers. And that is specifically for the reason to send out our people into the community to give back. I'm almost real quick. I'm almost done. So for you business owners, like this gentleman that spoke about the lot behind his workplace, and anybody who has this same issue, I would encourage you to come to me, to my center, and to work with me. In the next few months, we will be developing it. I will send Cecilia the presentation, and we will give back. They will give back, and that is a miracle in its own self. So once again, I encourage you to come. I'm at 204 South Hill, or you can get my number before you leave. Thank you.
Moving on to consent, was that Joe?
I am here because I'm opposed to the apartments being built.
I'm sorry, that'll be for the item when we get to the public hearing item.
Moving on to consent agenda item 3. We have consent agenda items 3A through 3K. Are there any comments from the public regarding the consent agenda? Seeing and hearing none? Is there any comments from the city council regarding the consent agenda? Is there a motion for approval of the consent agenda items?
I motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Tarver?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Morton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reyes? Yes. Motion carries 4-0.
Continuing on item 4A, public hearing. Staff has recommended that the council continue this public hearing to the following regular city council meeting of May 28, 2024. Let me type it. So do I move on forward to the next one, the next public hearing, correct? Oh, I will now open this public hearing. Are there any comments from the public on this item?
Yes, this is for item 4A, related to the Comanche and Varsity. Oh, sure. City attorney, read the item, would you like to read it?
Oh, a public hearing to consider, public hearing 4A, a public hearing to consider adoption and second reading of an ordinance of the city of Arvin, California, amending the official zoning map heretofore adopted by section 17.06.020 of the Arvin Municipal Code, being the zoning ordinance of the city of Arvin for zone change 2024-01, Comanche Drive and Varsity Avenue. The ordinance proposes a zone change from R1 Single Family Dwelling to PUD Planned Urban Development to R4 Multiple Family Residential Uncodified Ordinance. City Planner?
Since staff recommends continuing the item, I guess you would open up to public comment.
I will now open this public hearing. Are there any comments from the public on this item?
I am opposed to the ordinance.
Porque yo vivo a 3 casas de ahí donde los van a hacer.
I live 3 houses away from where they're gonna be built.
Y con lo que está, con la high school, con el colegio y la otra escuela que está, pues.
Okay, so you take into consideration the high school is gonna be at the college, the other school that's there.
Ya se va a hacer un tráfico mucho. Y
That's
después
gonna cause
departamentos,
a lot of traffic, and you throw in that some apartments.
si ahorita no nos dejan salir casa, cuando
There-
salimos.
Right now, when we had to exit, it's hard to get out.
Ahora si hay departamentos menos.
Imagine if you go to apartments,
Va a
it's
ser
even worse.
muy malo eso, que pongan departamentos.
That'd be a very bad thing if they put the apartments there.
También quería pedirles
I also like to request from you
en la Varsity y la Comanche,
on Varsity and Comanche,
a ver si nos pueden ayudar a poner luces, porque
see
es lo que
if you
necesitamos.
can help us install some lights there, that's what we need.
Porque la gente que sale de la Comanche para 7-Eleven,
The people that are exiting Comanche going towards 7-Eleven,
esa no puede casi pasar para allá.
no pueden qué?
¿Pasar?
I'm sorry,
Pasar.
that's outside of the public hearing item, so we need to keep on
Ya no
the topic
salimos
regarding.
fuera de la, de esta
Oh.
los departamentos.
Oh, los departamentos.
All the apartments.
Pues que no, pues ojalá no nos pongan porque pues no.
Hopefully,
puede
they
salir para
don't
nosotros.
place them there, because it will not be a good thing for us.
Va a haber mucha gente y pues no.
There'll be too many people, and,
Yo tengo 30 años viviendo ahí
I've been living there
y
for
40 en Arby.
30 years, 40 in Oregon,
Y estamos muy bien así.
and we're fine just where we are.
Pues les pido por favor que ojalá.
I request that you please do not do it.
Gracias.
Thank you.
We have a speaker card, Cynthia Elizondo.
City Council members. My name is Cindy Elizondo, and I live on 1315 Nance Street. And I am here to voice my concerns and my opinions about the rezoning to the R4 to the multiple family high-density residential area. I strongly oppose to this rezoning. My family and I have lived in Arvin for over 20 years, and it has been a safe and quiet area, neighborhood where we live at. Any type of construction, homes or apartments or any other type of structures will dramatically increase the traffic coming in and out of our neighborhood. It will also increase any crime or theft and possibly having loitering. And all this will require us to have additional law enforcement to help us keep safe in our community, costing the city more money and resources. For these reasons, I am against the rezoning. Thank you very much for your time.
Next speaker card is Dee Goya.
Muy buenas tardes.
Good afternoon.
Mi nombre es Francisco González
My name is Francisco Gonzalez.
y yo vivo en el 307 de la Nelson Court
I live on 307 Nelson Court.
y tenemos un problema muy grave ahí con el
We
tráfico.
have a very big problem there with all the traffic.
Before que hicieran el colegio,
Before the college was built,
la calle estaba abierta por el terreno y el tráfico pasaba por el terreno.
the street was open to the property and the traffic passed through the property.
Ahora todo el tráfico pasa por mi calle. Todos
Now-
entran por mi misma calle y dan
All
vuelta
the
ahí.
traffic passes right in front of my house, all the traffic.
En la mañana y a las 7 a las 8 de la mañana no puedo ni salir de la casa.
2 a.m.
Tengo que andar buscando por dónde salgo.
I cannot even leave my house. I have to look for a route, alternate route to leave my house.
Y ahora si hacen los apartamentos allá,
So if they go ahead and build the apartments there,
¿qué va a pasar ahí?
what will happen there?
Todo el tráfico va a estar ahí mismo otra vez.
All the
Yo,
traffic will be in the same place again.
y nosotros vivimos ahí yo tengo 20 años viviendo ahí.
I've been living there for 20 years.
Y vivimos en paz, muy pacífico.
And
Todos
we
nos
live
conocemos,
in peace. Very
no
much.
hay robos,
We all
no hay
know-
crimen.
We all know each other. There's no theft, no crime.
Y si hacen los apartamentos,
If they build the apartments,
va a ser un problema muy grande porque la gente que va a vivir ahí
It's
va a
gonna be-
empezar a robar las
a
casas
very big problem, because the people that move in there are gonna start robbing houses,
quebrando las puertas para meterse cuando la gente no está,
breaking doors to go in when people are not home.
y no queremos apartamentos ahí, por
We
favor, no los
do
pongan.
not want apartments there. Please do not build them there.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Ms. Dee Goya.
Good afternoon, I'm Dee Dee Loria. I'd like to thank everyone up there for letting me come up and talk. Appreciate you guys letting me talk. I lived in Arvin from day one, born and raised here. I live at 1309 Nelson Court. I'm following these family members behind me because they are my bonus family. I was one of the first ones that lived in the houses. We were the first one that moved in. Houses have been amazing, quiet. We really only have one way, we have 2 ways in and 2 ways out to get into. If we're not at an appointment before 8 o'clock in the morning, we cannot get out until after. So I'm thinking if the apartment's gonna be built, excuse me, that we're gonna have a lot more traffic there, a lot more congestion, and we do have a lot of kids that walk that, and we're gonna have a lot of problems with. We have a lot of accidents right there already. So I'd like you guys really seriously to take into consideration with the kids, with our family, our bonus families and all that, on people on the vandalism, and as like they said, our traffic. We can go in Varsity, now that Grimway has been built, we can get out that way and we can go out Wooner. And that's pretty much our only in and outs between, school starts at 8:38 up there and gets out at 3:30. 3:38, so we're like rushing. We've got to get in and out before, or it's constantly like this. And I'm sitting there watching, because I live right there in the walkway, the driveway, and viewway. I see it every single day. And then we have, I live in the cul-de-sac area. I think we need a little bit more patrol in that area during that time. We have cars that are coming in, flying out, going back, and almost hitting the cars and kids that are walking to school. But I really wish you guys would really take in consideration. Think about us and think about how happy it has been. Thank you for letting me come up to talk.
No more? Any other comments? Come on down.
I have a question on this one. And this is the vacant lot that's across from Marvin High School, that area. Correct me if I'm wrong, if memory serves me right, but wasn't there an issue with that same tract housing with some kind of gas or something where people had to leave their homes? So my question basically has there been an environmental report done on this area? Because if memory serves me right, that used to be an oil field. And so has that been addressed at all? The infrastructure pipes that are underneath are probably still there because again, it used to put an oil field and oil pumps on it. So again, what risk are you looking at, whether it's an R1 or R4 zoning, as far as down the road? Is there a risk going to be involved, and has that been taken into consideration? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, our city planner would like to address that point.
So we hired consultant engineers, Precision Civil Engineering out of Fresno, to do an initial study on that property. Well, not that property, just that property and another property here in Arvin, and no environmental effects were found. So we adopted a negative mitigated declaration, and we submitted it to the state last year.
I have a question for you. I'm looking at the map. Is there any way we could make like a layout for Nance Street to actually exit? That way they have more entry?
So,
or how does it work?
So I do want to debunk there's no proposed apartments there's no apartments being proposed at this time, so that we don't have any construction going. But we definitely, if and when apartments do get proposed or any development does get proposed in that area, we can definitely look at that. The development goes to Planning Commission for approval and review, so we could definitely address any traffic concerns that arise. We can also request for the developers to include like a stop sign on that corner. Traffic impact analysis can be done prior to development. Right now, there's no proposed development. I do want to clear that up. But if and when there is, the city has the power to request that on the developer. And since there is that concern, we would be requesting that developer to do those reports.
Are there any comments or questions from City Council on this item?
I have a question. Okay, before I ask about this, in regards to people that live in that community, and how do they feel about it? And there was nothing. Okay, this gentleman asked about the oil and petroleum. Was there any environmental impact there? You said you got a survey or a study or something from some professional, right? So, go ahead.
Sorry, yes, an initial study was completed.
Okay, and he said, what did he say? Did he say that there had nothing to do with oil or any of that stuff?
There was no adverse effects found, so there was no, I forget the key term. There was, no mitigations are required. They didn't find anything when they conducted the study.
All right, so, I know that, I know Dee Dee and probably this lady here remembers when they shut that whole thing down and had all those people in apartments because of oil and gas. See what I mean? So, and I happen to know that the gas line from this Jewett Square tank farm goes right next to the sidewalk and goes all the way out and underneath and then across and over into the oil fields that's over there, okay? But myself, I really didn't care for that idea first time. That's why I asked you. And I asked you about the traffic, okay? And I talked to you later about it in regards to why the heck did they close off this road that's going out to Sunset? Okay, because that creates a huge problem, and it created a huge problem because when we went to high school there, the kids from Lamont would come in that way, okay? So, and the kids that lived on this side, they parked in that parking lot. But now it's all blocked up and everybody's forced that way. And then you got people coming through the neighborhood, their neighborhood, and then they add apartments on top of that there's gonna be a huge problem. So, that discussion may be for another day or whatever, but go ahead.
Yeah, and also, we do want to keep in mind that the lot is fairly small. It's about 2.5 acres, so when we say apartments, a lot of, there could be the negative notion that's, maybe it's 100 units that could fit in. We do have a limit, and we can impose the minimum of, I believe it's 8 units per acre, so essentially, it wouldn't be that many. We can impose the minimum limits on that development whenever the development does come, so there wouldn't be too many units on that as well. If that's when we do the traffic impact report or analysis on that development, whenever it's completed, that could be addressed as well.
I have nothing further. No, this is postponed anyway, right?
Yes.
Council, is there a motion to continue the public hearing to the following?
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem, we have another member of the public that would like to provide comment.
Hi, I'm Mayor Knight. First off, you guys remember when the community from people at the community over there came over and opposed it all, and you guys went last time. You guys should take that into consideration this time also. They have all valid points. The other thing is, this guy over here is lying that people, that no one's interested in that. Off paper, there is. On paper, there's not yet. They're trying to get rezoned, they can go for it.
I want to beg to differ. I personally have not received any development on that, and I can put that on the record.
Any more public comments? Public hearing is now closed. Council, is there a motion to continue the public hearing to the following regular city council meeting of May 28, 2024? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Tarver?
No.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Harton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-1. The public will have another opportunity at the next meeting to provide comments.
Correct. Continuing on to item 4B, public hearing. City planner, please provide, my apologies. Public hearing 4B, a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Arvin to adopt the general plan amendment, GPA 2024-01-2023-2031, housing element and the fair housing analysis dated May 2024, and authorize staff to submit the housing element to the State of California Department of Housing and Community Development for final review and accept the notice of exemption per the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. City planner, please provide your staff report for this item.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm going to refer over to our consultant planner that we hired for our housing element, Mr. Isaac George.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Kota, council members. It's a pleasure to be here with you. We've been working on this housing element since last year. We have presented a couple of drafts to the state, and the state has given us certain comments, and this is a product of based on the comments that we received. So at this meeting, staff is basically requesting the council to conduct a public hearing and authorize staff to forward this housing element and the fair housing analysis to the state for a final review. So a final review would mean that they might have a few more comments, and in which case we would adjust that. If they are satisfied with the document, they will approve it and let us know. There is a PowerPoint presentation that we have. It's rather lengthy, but I see on the agenda that there are several items that need to be considered, and many of the public are waiting for those to be done. So I will briefly go over as to what the housing element is and what we have done in the last 1 year or so. A housing element is the city's vision and a plan on how best to provide housing for all income groups within the city and affirmatively furthering fair housing. So it's not only having a plan, but affirmatively providing housing for all income groups, and that's the key word. The housing element must be updated every 8 years, and this is one part of what is called the general plan of the city. The general plan has the land use element, the safety element, the equality element, and many other elements. There are 7 mandated elements that every county and city must have, and housing element is one of them. And among all these 7 mandated elements, this is the only one that must be certified by the state. So what happens is that if this document doesn't get certified by the state, the city would not be able to apply for CDBG grants, home monies, and a slew of other grants that are available from the state and many other state bodies in general. What we have done, first we will start with the fair housing analysis. The state law requires, and the HUD law requires, the federal HUD requirements, requires the city to look at the housing element from an outreach perspective. We have had several meetings before the Planning Commission and the City Council. We conducted workshops. The turnout was not that great. However, we have been able to collect whatever information we could, and we looked at key data and information about the community. We looked at the existing fair housing enforcement and outreach capacity, integration and segregation patterns. You know, ours is more or less a homogeneous community, mostly the majority being Hispanic in origin, which sometimes is not the case in many other cities. And that's where, say for example, if it's a majority white community and we have ethnic minorities and if they face any discrimination, then that's what the HUD and state are looking at, whether the people are suffering from it or not. In our case, it's a reverse pattern. Whether or not there is racial or ethnic concentrated areas of poverty, disparities in access to opportunity. Access to opportunity is, we will go through each of these later. Basically, it is what kind of resources do we have in this community? Good high schools, do we have colleges, good park facilities, are we mobility center? Do we have park and ride facilities available? So it essentially looks at the quality of living in the community. And finally, whether or not there is disproportionate housing needs in the jurisdictions, and is there any displacement risk? We then lead with a site inventory of existing vacant sites, and we will identify contributing factors, goals, and actions. I mean, what factors contribute to disparity, if at all, if it exists? If there is no resources, if our community is not resource rich, what factors contribute to that? And that's what is looked at in item number 4. So we conducted workshops in July, then we had workshops in October, along with the environmental justice element that the council adopted some time ago. And we had public review of the draft housing element and fair housing on June 20th. And since then, the state had reviewed it 2 times. The major findings of the housing element analysis and the fair housing analysis are as follows. We have a population based on the 2020 census, approximately 19,000 plus people. 94% of the community is Hispanic or Latino. We have about 4,711 households. Owner occupied is about 50% of those, which is a good number. It could have been better. Persons per household is about 4.48. That's a critical number. If you really look at the state averages, they are about 3 or so. And that means we have more persons per household requiring special types of services for those people in the city. Median household income is approximately 40,000. And the poverty index is 32%, which is also kind of stark when we're looking at. It's a number pretty high. Diversity index is something that talks about large concentration of non-white populations, greater than 80%, primarily containing Hispanic population, and that's the case here. The Gini index is about income disparity. It's an economic coefficient. The Gini index for the city is 0.371 out of 100, while that for California as a whole is 0.487. So we could say, compared to California, we have lesser of a income disparity. The similarity index is again available at the county level. That is 0.5 out of 1. Hispanic majority compared to non-Hispanic majority would follow, show generally the similar kind of trends. And these are maps that have been provided by the state. So we looked at these data and interpreted these, and the state wants us to utilize these data that are provided. And these maps have kind of reflected the analysis that we have provided in the housing element in general. Then we talked about racially or ethnically concentrated areas of poverty, concentrated areas of affluence. We really don't have any area that fixes this definition, because in order to come under that, there has to be a median household income of $125,000 and a population that is 80% or more white, and that doesn't apply in our case. Again, some more statistics. Disparities to opportunities, access to opportunities, we talked about it, so I'm not belaboring on it. Again, some more maps that explains all those, because these are not numbers pulled from thin air, but based on statistics that has been provided by the state. Disproportionate housing needs, some 44.6% of households are overpaying for housing at the cost burden over 30%. And that's kind of high. When we really look at people having higher poverty in communities such as these, such as ours, we will definitely see this kind of a trend. And displacement, with regards to displacement, we really do not have a lot of displacement that might happen. This is one community that doesn't really have a market rate apartment. We have 10 or 15 different projects that are run by the Housing Authority and previously funded by cities. So all these projects are housing assisted projects. If at all there is a covenant that they have to keep up to about 55 years or so. So it is not easy to see displacement of people. Say, for example, if it were a private company operating an affordable housing project with a calendar of 55 years, and if they were running out on the 55th year, that can convert that into a market rate project. And the question would be, where would these people go? And that is displacement. But we don't really have any displacement concerns at this point. As staff mentioned, the site inventory is basically making lands that's available to meet a critical element called the regional housing needs assessment. This is prepared by, these numbers were generated by CRNCOG under the authority of the state. And CRNCOG has divided up these numbers among all the cities and the unincorporated county and said, yes, City of Marvin, you need to build, or we don't have an obligation to build, because if we don't have money, we don't have it. Where would we get it from? We will apply for a grant and then have an RFP for developers to come and utilize the grant and create an affordable housing project. But we have to facilitate for the production of housing, whether it is upzoning from R2 to R3 to R4 or not, in order to meet the RHNA numbers. In short, Regional Housing Needs Assessment is called RHNA. In order to meet that, we have to do some zoning to make sure that we meet these requirements. Because what if we don't do it? Every year we have to provide a housing compliance report to the state, and they will ask us, how come you couldn't do it? How come you did not apply for funds? And what else do you plan to do to ameliorate that situation, to bring it up to what we have promised in the housing element? And contributing factors are many, as we have said, poverty, lack of city staff, enough staff to be available to go after funding. That is the case. But in our case, that's not the case. We have a great grants manager who has been really applying for so many grants and has been very successful in bringing money to the city. But I personally know that there are a couple of projects that might come through. In fact, this housing element approval is very critical for us to receive those kinds of funds. Our housing programs address the following 5 major areas: maintaining and preserving the existing affordable housing stock, assisting in the provision of housing, removing governmental constraints. Governmental constraints are things like overly red tapeous government rules. I mean, making it difficult for people to build. One easy example to provide now, as a result of new legislation that has occurred from the state, is that we allow now accessory dwelling units. They are called ADUs, and it's very easy that you automatically administratively can apply for an ADU on an existing lot without having to subdivide the lot, and they are called ADUs. But under SB 9, Senate Bill 9, that has been further diluted, where you could also subdivide your lot and still build more units. So the state is making these regulations much easier to comply and produce more housing. Now, all of these has resulted in specific programs proposed in the housing element. So we do have a slew of programs. I will mention a few of them. There are more than about 30 projects proposed in the next 8 years, which is housing information outreach. We will provide information on the website, home maintenance counseling that will be available through city staff, neighborhood cleanup and fix-up campaigns. We have heard about the condition of some of the parts of our city that they are not clean, so we have to initiate some kind of a neighborhood cleanup where public can also participate in it and solve the problem with not having enough staff at City Hall. Arvin Housing Element Advisory Committee. We have been trying since many years to create an advisory committee, but we haven't had enough support from the community. Means people have to volunteer to come and say, yes, we would like to do that. Another solution that the city might look at in the future is to combine the planning commission into a housing advisory commission and a planning commission, one in the same body. We will have residential rental unit inspection programs, funding single-family owner-occupied rehab programs, maintain and update the inventory of at-risk housing, to serve the mobile home parks, Section 8 rental assistance, which we already get through the county. It is not given by the city, it's HUD money is coming through the county. Development of extremely low income housing, that is of primary concern to the state. We'll provide an energy conservation library on how we can save energy and programs that may be available. Update the general plan and the zoning ordinance with a slew of programs to meet these requirements. Because automatically this will happen, we got to facilitate by amending the general plan and the zoning ordinance and having adequate infrastructure. And on, I'm sure you have had the opportunity to read the staff reports which enunciates all these programs, and so I'm not really taking it off time. So one of the things that you might be thinking, well, Isaac mentioned about RENA, and what's that's impacting us, our community? What's our obligation going to be? And that's that highlighted number, total housing obligations under this 8-year cycle RENA is about 1,880 units. I make a correction. The second line that you see, remaining obligations from 5th cycle, that is not required by law, so I would take that 706 units out of it. That's my error. I was supposed to correct it, but I forgot about it. So 1880 minus 706, that will be our requirement. And this includes new construction, rehabilitation, conservation, rehab, anything of that sort. Now, every project, whether it is the zoning ordinance or a general plan amendment, when we amend it, it has to comply with CEQA, otherwise known as the California Environmental Quality Act. And what we plan to do is that because housing element is a policy document, not like having a zone change or construction as part of this, in the policy document, the state allows us to have an exemption called common sense exemption, according to CEQA guidelines section 15061B3, and that would be the exemption that we are proposing as part of the staff report. So at this point, without belaboring much, I thank you for your time. At this point, if you have any questions to staff from the council, you might ask it. Otherwise, you might open the public hearing to see if there is any concerns or comments from the public. And if there is none, you should take the vote and approve this and allow staff to forward it to the state. Thank you very much.
I will now open this public hearing. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Hearing and seeing none. Are there any comments or questions from the city council on this item?
I do have a question.
When was this analysis done? What year or current?
This analysis have been done over the last 1 year because as you have seen, the document is almost probably about 400 pages. So that analysis includes census data, data from the Department of Finance. The state gives us a set called the data package through the current Council of Governments, and we analyze each and every one of those and interpret that, and from that we came up with these programs. And of course the state will tell us, you need to do a particular analysis of this or that, something that is missing in the draft document. So they also ask us to do additional analysis.
I have another question.
Yes.
On your slide, 15, slide 15.
Okay.
It says 49.7% of households in Arvin are renter occupied. Where did you get the data from? Because I kind of find it a little bit.
From the Census Bureau.
From the census?
Yes. In fact, most of the tables that you see in the reports will have a source that says Census Bureau. The Census Bureau has two types of data. One is called the Absolute Count 2020 census data. And then we also have another set of data called, it is census data, but it's different, and it's called ACS data. It means the American Community Survey data, which is not 100%. It is sample data that the feds do on an ongoing basis, on a 5-year turning basis, 2021, 22, and the 5-year aggregated data is available on the census website. And they have, because it is not 100% data, they have what is called a margin of error. But that is a sample statistic that we can easily use to project certain numbers.
Thank you.
Sure.
Council, is there a motion for this item? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Tarver?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Horton?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Continuing on to item 4C, public hearing. 4C, a public hearing to consider introduction of an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arvin, California, amending Appendix A to Chapter 1.24 of the Arvin Municipal Code relating to the city's conflict of interest code. City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. This is an item that is brought forth to the council every 2 years. It's required by law. The Political Reform Act requires each city to review its conflict of interest code and to notify the city council as to whether or not the code needs to be amended. And this year's code does require an amendment. There have been changes to this city's organizational structure, including a position that was eliminated and a new position added since the code was last approved. So staff is recommending that you consider introducing the ordinance to be read by title, open hearing, allow for public testimony, close the hearing, waive the first reading of the ordinance, and approve the introduction of the ordinance.
Thank you. I will now open this for public hearing. Is there any comments from the public on this item? Hearing and seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the City Council on this item? Council, is there a motion for this item?
I make a motion.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Tarver?
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Horton? Mayor Pro Tem Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Continuing on to item 4D, public hearing. 4D, a public hearing to consider adoption of a resolution of the City Council of the City of Arvin to approve municipal sewer rates for fiscal year 2024, 2025 to 2028, 2029. City Manager, please provide the staff report for this item.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This item was brought before council back on March 12th. A presentation was made proposing the sewer rate changes for the last 5 years. In the interim, in the last 60 days, the city was required to send notice to all residents of the City of Arvin discussing this potential change and offering them to protest the rate changes, either by mail or here in person at this meeting. The city received 5 written protests. And again, in order for something to actually fail in the protest level, you would have to have a majority of the city's taxpayers file a written protest. So we received 5. I would also like to point out the sewer rates have not been raised for 5 years. Right now we're at the place where the sewer fund is breaking even, and we need the increases to cover, number one, ongoing inflation, and number two, capital improvements to fix some of our sewer lines and other infrastructure. Cecilia, can you pull up page 485? Perfect, all right. Hopefully, maybe we can zoom this in a little bit. Okay, perfect. So how is the money going to be spent? this is the key table. This talks about the pipeline replacements in various locations. It talks about additional land we need to dispose, that we can have to dispose of our effluent, and other upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant. So my recommendation is that we approve the rate changes, and I have a representative from Willdan, our consulting firm, that's also able to ask questions if you or the public have any questions on this report. Go ahead.
Presentation.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the technical one. It's not the presentation. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, so the PowerPoint's not loaded?
Yeah. No, we have what's included in the staff report.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question. On page 4, yeah, how come single families are getting charged the same thing as businesses and schools? Since businesses and schools are the ones that have the most traffic, so we're referring to.
It's just a continuation of the structure that's been in place for decades.
Yeah, yes, 30 years. And the schools, it says here, the schools are based on a per capita basis. So in other words, we don't charge the school $6 or $85. We actually charge it on a per student basis.
On a student basis?
Yes.
Okay. How about businesses?
It is a flat rate.
So you're saying small local businesses pay the same thing as web?
One. That's just the rate structure of the door. That's always been in place. That has been challenged before.
Not just for the city of Marvin, or is it just other cities as well? Is that how they conduct business as well? As far as the rates?
Cities are different depending on how much data is available. I mean, in some cities where wastewater is metered, they may have flow-based rates, but that's not the case in Oregon. So it's not uncommon for cities to have a flat rate structure like this.
Yeah, I just don't see that it's for someone that has 4 employees is paying the same rate as someone that has 200 employees.
Right, again, it's just consistent with the rate structure that's been in place for many years now, and based on the data that's available.
Would like something that you could change, or is that something that you can change, or that's not doable?
Potentially could in the future, if there's sufficient data to show the differences between, we can track the differences between different types of uses. That might be able to change in the future. It's not required to stay this way forever. It's just based on how feasible it is to get maintained data to look at here.
I will now open this public hearing. Are there any comments from the public on this item?
There are concerns from the community, and you've heard for the past 2 months now, folks share concerns about lack of transparency. And when it comes to our wastewater treatment plant, we know from farmers here that they are very, very concerned about the safety, the soundness of our wastewater treatment plant, whether or not it has been compromised. We have so many questions, and the public hasn't been informed about it. When it comes to increasing rates at this point, we understand that our infrastructure, like in cities across the country, that are crumbling and that need to be repaired. But in the time where we're also wanting to know about who are the corporations that were contracted to manage our wastewater treatment plant, has this changed? We know and we've heard from farmers that there might be a reservoir that's compromised, that might be leaking. Is it seeping into our groundwater? We'd like to know. We know that you take a lot of that gray water and you use it to water the fields that go to feed our livestock. But who's managing that farm now? It used to be managed by someone else. Who's managing now at this point? There's so many questions, and the public has a right to be informed about it. I would encourage you to please have a hearing on this topic, just on this topic. Educate the public. The city manager says he only received 5 notices in opposition. I'll tell you what, I know without a doubt we would have received a lot more questions and concern had the public been informed about the possibility that our wastewater treatment plant is compromised and that it's being mismanaged, that there might be questions about public health. Our children bathe with this water. I don't know anyone in the city that drinks the water, quite frankly, because of the history of pollution and contaminants that have caused many residents to develop cancer, like TCP 123 and things like that. But our kids do bathe in it. We all bathe in it. So we need to have these answers. So please, this is not a time to be approving a rate increase without any of these questions being answered. And to your point, Ms. Reyes, that's an excellent question about whether or not these rates should be changed. It seems to me that when you just look at it just on its face, it doesn't seem fair that you all have the power to absolutely change those rates, and that you all together, you can direct staff to come back and propose different rates that would be fair based on the size of families and the usage, like Mr. Murillo has said. So we would ask you all to please have a hearing separately on our wastewater treatment plant, have a hearing that also helps to ensure that if you do increase our rates, that the money's gonna be used specifically for the sewer system and not for anything else. Like when they increased our taxes, right? When we had the 1% sales tax, the money didn't just go to our roads, it went to other things. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if I could respond to this.
Go ahead.
I'm tired of this hit and run, come here public comments and saying what's going on without even coming to staff or the city manager or grant staff and asking these questions. The wastewater treatment plant is not compromised.
Sorry. Are there any more comments on this item?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I just have a question, looking at the single family and the multi-family, that when they use more water than the single, that I think it should be a little bit more for them, because if you have a few homes and you know there has to be like 8 or 9 people living there, and in one family it should be maybe 3 or 4 at the most. So I think that one should change it a little bit. I mean, I don't know if you can look into it, please. That's my only concern. Also, years back, I don't know if Mr. Carter remembers, there was some money that was supposed to be put away for Derby to have all the sewer redone, and then it was gonna be paid. I don't know if that was ever accomplished or not. There was some funds saved from Viola, gave us money to, and they were gonna redo all that because he said it's old and it needs to be replaced, and there's some homes that live on Derby, South Derby, that are on, they're not on the city, they're on the old, what do you call it? On septic. Maybe there might be one person here that still has it, that's present today. So
This was back in 20 what?
This is back probably 2010, 2012, something like that. I don't know if it was accomplished or not. I was just trying to find out if, hopefully.
I actually have the answer then.
Okay, thank you so much.
You were correct, it was in 2010, and I'm not aware of Veolia providing any money for this, or sewer treatment plant. I do know that a cost study was done back at that point. It was determined like, it was $500,000 or $600,000. At that point, it was determined not to be economically feasible for the city to spend $500,000 or $600,000 for benefit 10 or 15 residents.
Thank you.
Again, I do have questions on this one, but I don't have enough information to really work with, so I can kind of wrap my head around this, the rates that we want to increase for sewer. So my question to you is really, if you would consider tabling this with the next meeting, so that I can get more information about as to what exactly is going on. We're talking about rates, and as the individual who previously did a presentation on the population, we're talking 39, medium income, or what it was, at 39,000, you're asking these individuals, homeowners, to pay more, and they're already low income as it is. So my suggestion to you is to kind of, if you can table this for the next meeting, and in the process, and also, so that I can get a better handle on this, and also open it up where you have more information going out to the public. Because I have heard it from other individuals out there saying, well, what's going on with this now? And as I pointed out earlier, we do have an aging infrastructure, which includes the sewer system. So any studies that get done as to what's going on exactly within the sewer system is a part of what's going on. Other money's going out to the reservoirs involved. So I really would like to have more information on this. Thank you.
Well, my point about that, the information has been raised since that 12th of April. That's been published on the city website. So, kind of coming at the last minute here.
I have one last question.
Are there any comments or questions from the city council on this item?
Yes. Can we go to?
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. My name is Dean Christian. I live at 459 North Hill Street. I've been a homeowner in Arvin for almost 67 years. I understand the need for an increase in sewer rates. It is a necessity and a benefit to all. My concern is the state saying if you have space, you can build another resident on the R1 lot. This will add more volume to sewer treatment plant. Here's my point. The city of Arvin needs to hire a full-time code enforcement officer, not just in name only, but one who has backbone enough to issue citations for illegal buildings and sewer hookups. Even if he has to take a police officer with him, we all need to know that there is building going on without permits and inspections. And get back to the rates. If you, and most everybody I'm thinking get the same letter I got, if you average this out over a 5-year period, it's only a $40.63 a year increase. And I think it's reasonable for us because we don't want to go back to cesspools and leach lines. Thank you.
Any more comments from the public?
Hi, my name is Maricela Tamayo. I received a letter, and there's a table here that says that the rate would be going up year 24, year 25, year 26, and year 27, all the way to 28. I'm looking at the single family on mine, and it says 571.74. In year 24, if this passes, it would be 648.78. The difference is $77. In year 25, again, it would go from $648.78 to $726.64. That's another $77.86. Year 2026, it's only $18.17, and then $14.90, and then $15.90. How did you guys decide how and when it's gonna go up? You know, if it was, okay, for year 24, $20, for year 25, another $20, but $77, that's a big jump. How did you guys decide towards 26, 27, 28 to be 18, 14? I'm not sure if I'm doing the math correctly, but I mean, overall, from year 24 to 28, our difference that we would be paying would be $200.16. It might not look like it's a lot. For me, it is. For a single family, we're paying the same as a business, as a multifamily. That's a lot. I don't know if everybody received this table here, but if you make the math, it's a lot. Thank you.
I would like to remind that there were no increases over the past 5 years, 0. And we are trying to catch up with inflation, and the reason for front-ending the expenses is because we have work that needs to be done now, and we need to raise the capital.
Is there any other comments from the public? Are there any comments or questions from the city council on this item?
I have a comment. Can you guys go to page 8? So on table 3 for the sewer, CIP. That one. Okay, not too long ago, we approved almost $100,000 to fix the infrastructure on the restrooms for the parks. And now we're gonna spend $2 million just on sewer. And my question to you guys is, like, I work in construction, and I know it's prevailing wage money, but it only takes a week at most, and one day just to tie into the sewer. So where are we getting it's gonna cost us $2,662,000 per ton?
I can address that one. Councilman Mario, there was a study done 3 years ago that exactly explains why these cost so much and how much, and what it is. This is for blocks and blocks of pipeline replacement. It's just not for fixing 1 or 2 sewer connections. It's a pretty substantial improvements. And I can point to you offline about the surveys we've done both on the sewer lines themselves and the collection system.
But this is mainly parks. Where are we actually gonna start fixing, like, the streets, or is it involved?
This is a totally different fund. The sewer operates a little bit different than the general fund that we use to fund parks and police and things like that. This is a totally different funding source, totally different set of ledgers. So this particular, if I was to do money here, I'm not taking money away from parks. So it's a totally different fund.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from the city council on this item?
Yes, I can. Mr. City Manager, can you tell us a little bit about the history of the position that our sewer facility is in? How we got to the point that we're doing these price hikes? Can you speak to that? And maybe they can understand it. My other question is, if we don't go with the hike, what will the results be from that?
I can address that in 2 ways, thank you. The first one is that the city has poorly paid attention to the infrastructure, the sewer lines themselves. A lot of the operations of the sewer plant for well over 20 years, but no money invested. So it's caught up with the maintenance that needs to be done, especially on the collection system. Take a look at some of the reports. Some of the pipes in the north part of town are clay pipes. They're the ones that need to be fixed first. The second question is more of what happens if we don't do this. Well, right now, two things will happen. Right now, we're barely breaking even because of inflation. If I don't do this, we're going to start running the fund at a deficit. And if we run the fund at a deficit, unfortunately, we start running into issues with our bond that we took out to buy the wastewater treatment plant in the first place. We have to have certain reserves, and the reserves is like 1.25x of cash. And as the report presents itself, if we don't do rate increases in the out years, 27, 28, 29, we're going to be below the minimum requirements to legally provide our debt service in really the world. Our bonds could be called, and I put the city in a much worse position.
Okay, so if you don't do anything, what position does that put the city in? I mean, as far as, if we don't fix anything out there, if we don't have the price hikes, okay, and we just sit there, are we in violation of anything?
Well, we could be, and like I said, we could be in violation of the debt service agreement we made when we took over the plant, when we purchased the plant back in 2016.
Okay. And you know, and here's the reality. Now, if I go too far, you stop me, Mr. City Attorney. Okay, what a lot of you don't understand is this. The position that the city is in right now is a position that someone else put the city in. Okay? Because the city, to me, the city sold their soul to the devil when they got in an agreement to let a private entity take over your city, your sewer. And part of this is some of their stuff. We have to perform because there was money involved that the city borrowed to clean up certain debt that they had created, like on the golf course. Remember that, Mr. King? On the golf course. What else did they do? There was something else they did too. But that put the city in huge debt. They didn't have the money to pay that thing off. So these people came in and said, hey, we got a golden deal for you. So then they went ahead and sold it out and said, we'll pay this, we'll pay that, but we run this and this and this and this. And why don't you guys put in a public records request and look at the agreement that the prior administrations entered into in regards to your sewer plant, and you'll understand a lot of what's going on right now. They got us by the throat. Not anybody's here, anybody in this building's fault. It's like when we were kids, they did that, and we're still suffering. So now we're in a position where, you know, you guys are saying, hey, why are you increasing these sewer rates? And I think it'd be beneficial to the public to understand the history behind some of the stuff that's gone on. Because a lot of people are new to it. They don't know. I have to, I'm not that old, but Dee Dee remembers. Mr. Christensen, so does Mr. Charles, don't you? Remember that, Tony? You see it? So, I mean, our hands are tied. So, go ahead.
One other thing to answer one of your questions, what will happen to the city if nothing takes place? The city received a cease and desist order from the State Water Control Board related to the wastewater treatment facility. And so if nothing is done, that cease and desist letter essentially prevents the city from continuing to develop. There will be no more hookups. There will be no more commercial businesses that are able to come in, and no more residential developments that are able to come in until this is corrected. And part of the money that I believe is addressing this is there to correct the things that the State Water Control Board has told the city you need to do. And they put the city on a timeline under the cease and desist letter. We went and had a hearing before that and got the cease and desist orders reduced significantly to help the city out. But they're still in place, and if the city doesn't address them, they can come back in and increase the orders that are on the city and make it more difficult for the city to actually continue to operate and to get out of this prevention of development.
And you know, when I first came in as mayor, the city was in the same position. And the solution to that problem was we put in that pipeline that goes all the way out to Wheeler Ridge Road. Okay, that was the solution for years and years and years to come. But however, it's not the same. The pipeline's still there, but it's not the same. That needs to be fixed. So that's all.
So members, I asked if the wastewater treatment plant was compromised. The response was that it's not, and the city attorney just said to us that you've received an assist letter. You guys can't develop anymore. Is that because the wastewater treatment plant is compromised and doesn't have the capacity to deal with our sewer?
No, it's not. Excuse me, sorry, Ms. Olivia. I think public comment is over.
No, it's a question, because this is open for the public to ask questions. And I have a question because I asked about that specifically. And I know farmers have also expressed concerns that live in that area. And so the question then becomes, again, it sounds like you also have questions, we all have questions. Wouldn't the public and all of us be better served if we tabled this and you had a hearing specifically on this issue so that we could all be better informed? And then you could also perhaps look at a different schedule that would better serve the community, since it's been a long time since it's been increased.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you can call to order because that's two public comments from the same person, but I'd be happy to address that question if you would like, from the legal standpoint of this.
Thank you.
Are you gonna let him ask a question? Are you gonna allow the city attorney?
Well, can you answer in a way that we can understand? Thank you.
Well, I understand, but I think they need to understand, it's just, I just have a comment, just like you said, Councilmember Charter, these are some of the things that we inherit, and these are the things that we are trying to remedy. It's not something that we inherited to the city, it was something that was inherited as practices, and those are the things that we are now trying to work and remedy. It's not that we're not being transparent, but there's certain legalities behind this, so that's something that we're working on. So go ahead.
So the wastewater treatment facility, the actual plant of itself, according to the cease and desist, does not, there's not a problem with the way it's operating. It's operating properly. The issue is with the pond, where the effluent goes to settle after it goes through the wastewater treatment facility. That pond has been drained. That pond is compromised, and so no effluent is being put in there currently because it's compromised, and it could leak if that water, or if that effluent rose to a high enough level. But there's nothing in there right now. The wastewater treatment facility itself is not compromised, and the cease and desist order doesn't have any relation whatsoever to the actual treatment plant. It relates to where the effluent goes after it comes out of the plant. And so that's what some of this money is being addressed to, because that's what we've been working with the Water Control Board on remedying, getting more land, potentially digging ponds to fix that, and looking at farming contracts. There's multiple options, but what Mr. Jones, the city manager, said about whether the treatment plant itself is compromised was accurate. It's not compromised. It's the pond after it leaves the plant that's been compromised.
Can I help you address your question? I just want to also reassure that at the end of the day, it affects you, it affects us. So just bear in mind that we are working diligently to solve this problem. Thank you. Council, is there a motion for, this public hearing is now closed. Council, is there a motion for this item? Is there a second? I have a question before I second. Is it doable to go back and kind of like restructure the rate?
At this point, no, because since the city puts the rates on the county tax bill, the time to do that, it would put the whole process back in gear. And we still have, there's still a question as to whether there's adequate data to come up with anything different. Because you can't just be, you have to have data to support different rates. So we have to find that data, and so there's no guarantee that you have that data. And it'll push back the process of hearing, because you just deadline to submit the information.
Wouldn't we be able to get that data by just asking how many employees each business has? Or the average single family?
Assuming it's available, and then you have to maintain that data and keep it current, and there's added costs in terms of billing. Because you then have to calculate that on an ongoing basis. It could be possible, I'm not saying it's not.
It's an additional cost to the city because you have to redo your analysis, correct?
Well, that, and as the city manager said, the city's already out of compliance with bond covenants in terms of the amount of reserve you're required to maintain, 1.25 you mentioned. If another year goes by, that's gonna be even further out of compliance. You'll remain in technical default of the bond documents.
How much would that cost? I mean,
It depends. If the financial markets assess that, if you ever go to borrow money again, they'll look at whether or not you stay in compliance with previous debt, and they'll charge higher interest. So, depends on what kind of borrowing you do in the future.
How about the timeline? Instead of extending it to 2020, what is it, 2028? 2029, sorry.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
How about the timeline of the increased rates?
Could you extend it?
No, can you minimize that instead of extending it to 2029?
It would just mean, I'm not sure, do you mean, only have increase?
The increasement starts 2025, correct?
Correct.
no, we get a year to do more research. In case we have to do 26, 27, 28, and 29 together. Is that possible?
I'm not sure. Clear on the question, so you have to compress that same increase into a shorter period of time. So
Correct.
It would mean larger increases.
Oh, it will?
Because now instead of going 6 years without an increase, you go 7 years without an increase, which means now you have to increase even further in a shorter period of time.
How much, so if we do tell you to go back and redo all this, how much is it gonna cost us?
For our piece of the work, I'd have to go take a look. I mean, less than the amount of original study, because we've got the model and developed and everything. So I don't know, I really, I'd have to take a look at the model and maybe I'd be answering off the top of my head.
Answer at the deal ballpark.
Probably 25,000, give or take.
So, question, so can it be for 1 year, the increase? Why does it have to be all multiple years?
It could be that every time you increase, you have to go through the process of mailing out notices to your property owners and conducting a public hearing again. So you'd have to pay for the cost of mailing again the next year and have another public hearing. So that's why cities do it for 5 years at a time, because they only want to go through the process once every 5 years as opposed to every year.
And plus you'd have to
But
scale
you'll
back,
pay it.
plus you'd have to scale back the projects, because now you only have a 1 year horizon to figure out what you can add or not add.
So you're saying our hands are tied? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't wanna pay more sewer fees either, but I don't see a choice. So my motion's done.
As much as I don't want to, but I'm in the same boat. Like, nobody wants an increase. None of us want an increase. Especially those that are on a fixed income. It's bad enough property taxes are skyrocket. But at the end of the day, if we don't do this, then it continues on to the next council. It continues, and I just think if we don't do this, the city won't be able to flourish and continue to grow. I don't know if I'm correct.
please.
Councilmember Tarver,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo, Councilmember Horton,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Reyes,
Yes.
3 with 1 abstain. Motion carries.
And also like the over at, is it 5?
We're 5A.
Correct?
5A.
Moving on to action item 5A. 5A, consideration and approval of appointment of a council member to fill the vacancy to serve as the City of Arvin's primary board member of Kern Council of Governments. City Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. KernCog is an association of cities and county governments created to address regional transportation issues. Its member agencies include the County of Kern and 11 incorporated cities within Kern County. Within Kern County speaking, the KernCog Board of Directors is comprised of 1 elected official from each of the 11 incorporated cities in Kern County, 2 Kern County supervisors, and ex officio members representing Caltrans and Golden Empire Transit District. Monthly board meetings are the public forum for discussion and collaborative decision-making on significant issues of regional transportation and mobility. As a federally designated metropolitan planning organization and the state designated regional transportation planning agency for Kern County, KernCog is responsible for developing and updating a variety of transportation plans and for allocating federal and state funds to implement them. Following board directions, staff coordinates between local, state, and federal agencies to avoid overlap or duplication of programs. This intergovernmental coordination enables staff to work with many public agencies to ensure that public and implementation of program proceeds in a coordinated manner. There is a vacancy for the City of Arvin's KernCog primary board member seat. Board members should be available to attend the KernCog meetings held on the 3rd Thursday of each month at 6 p.m., 6 or 6:30 p.m. In the KernCog board room located in Bakersfield, or there are options to attend virtually. The next meeting scheduled to be held on Thursday, May 16th. KernCog provides the board member a stipend of $100 per meeting, attended plus mileage reimbursement, and is required to submit Form 700 from FPDC. So staff recommends that the council nominate and appoint a member of the council to serve as the primary board member for KernCog.
Any nominations?
We did it before.
Mayor Trujillo and Councilmember Murillo is the alternate.
I'll be doing it, yes,
So if he's the primary, we don't have to go back to the next meeting for an alternate. Is there a second nomination?
You want to be an alternate?
yeah. Wait, who's the primary?
No, but.
Primary was Mayor, former Mayor Trujillo.
And Morales is the mayor now.
Correct.
I nominate Susan.
Like to do it?
Yes,
All right.
it's about time to put Arvin on the map.
Okay, I'll second. And
Okay,
you still, and you're gonna be their alternate, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Horton nominates Mayor Pro Tem Reyes and Councilmember Tarver, not second nomination for Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Reyes. Roll call, Councilmember Tarver,
Yes.
Councilmember Murillo,
Yes.
Councilmember Horton, Mayor Pro Tem Reyes.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Can you just kind of remind me?
Oh, yeah, this Thursday.
Moving on to action item 5B. 5B, consideration and approval of the amendment number 1 to the professional consultant services between the City of Arvin and Carullo Engineers Incorporation for funding and permitting assistance. City Manager, please provide your report for this item.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Like we discussed earlier, the